He kōna I purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
E ngā mana o te motu, tēnā koutou katoa, I'm Weramu and I'm here to take you through the biggest stories of the week. There's heaps to get through. I hope you're ready. We start the week with a sad story. A young driver who killed 5 teenage boys has been given 2.5 years in prison. Tyrese Fleming had been drinking before the crash. He was on a restricted licence, driving a car with way too many people and speeding. He was the only person who survived the crash when his car hit a power pole near Timaru last August. The 20-year-old heard emotional statements from the relatives of the 15 and 16-year-old passengers in his car. My advice, hey, never feel pressured to get into a car with anyone who's been drinking. After late night, last-minute negotiations, Aotearoa now has a free trade agreement with the European Union. The deal will be worth 1.8 billion heaps when it comes into full swing in 2035. The big winners right now are kiwi fruit, fish, and we can now import pig meat, biscuits, sweets and wine from the EU without having to pay any tariffs. Interestingly, Kiwis will not be able to sell products called feta, you know, the cheese stuff, in 9 years' time, as that product is culturally sensitive to Greece. A spacecraft launch from little old New Zealand this week has given NASA a step forward in its attempt to send people back to the moon. Rocket Lab launched a microsatellite spacecraft from Hawke's Bay, which will test an orbit for future travel. NASA hopes to use the orbit with Gateway. It's this little moon base that astronauts will travel up to before descending down to the lunar surface to do spacey stuff. Rocket Lab says there's still much to learn from the moon 50 years after humans last stepped foot on it. In America, all the big politicians have been hearing about the crazy stuff that went down when former President Donald Trump lost the election. Rioters attacked one of America's most important government buildings at the start of last year after Trump told his supporters to join in the fight and try and overturn the election result. A staff member says Mr. Trump ignored repeated warnings against summoning the mob and then refused to intervene to stop the deadly violence. The All Black camp has been hit hard by COVID, both the coaching team and players, and that's just days before their first test of the year against Ireland. 5 players won't be available for selection, but that's pretty good news for Lester Whainga-Anuku. He gets to play his first ever All Blacks game starting on the wing. The last time the AB suffered a loss at Eden Park, though, was way back in 1994, 28 years ago. I think we'll be fine. A new tunnel and light rail are among the projects proposed for Wellington this week. It would be the biggest investment in transport the capital has ever seen, linking much of the city with light rail. And get this, it's going to cost $7.2 billion. So where does the government get the money to pay for all the things it does? All will be explained. Spoiler, it's from tax.
Time to put on your grown-up caps, fam.
We're going to teach you a thing or two about taxes.
Taxi!
No, not those taxis.
Firstly, what is tax?
Taxes are payments which are made to the government to contribute towards making society work.
And the government is who?
A government is a group of people with the authority to run and regulate a country like Aotearoa.
Okay, so who is paying the government this money?
Oh, yeah, right. That would be you.
You say what?
Well, a percentage of money called tax is taken from your paycheck and paid to the government.
Oh, so when my auntie gets paid for her mahi, she doesn't get to keep it all?
And when I buy something at the shop, some of that goes to the government too?
Correct. The government allocates taxes to pay for things like roads and transport, education, health, police and fire services.
I see. Does it cost a lot of money to run all these services?
In New Zealand, the tax year spanning 2019-20, taxpayers paid a total of $85.1 billion.
Wowzers, that is a lot of money.
Tax is the main source of income for the government.
Right, so basically by paying tax, we're helping to run the country.
All right, I think I'm getting it. So when we get a job and start earning money, we also become part of the community that pays towards running the country.
Because we use a lot of the services that the government provides.
Like the road your school is on. Then there's your teacher that needs to be paid, police and firefighters.
And of course, the doctor's surgery you visit. Get free lollipops.
Thanks.
Taxes are very important for sure. They're essential for keeping society running and providing the services that the country needs.
Well, you learn something new every day. I didn't realise that my auntie didn't get to keep all of her hard-earned money. And come to think of it, I hadn't really thought about how many services the government provides. There you have it, future taxpayer. It won't be news to you when you get your first job and see that some of your paycheck has disappeared.
That's just your first step in becoming part of the larger system and contributing to your community. Karawhiua. I'm Evie York, and this episode was made by TVNZ and RNZ and is public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air. You or your parents can follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or just about any podcast app. Plus, you can watch News to Me on TV2 on Friday afternoons, catch it on demand, or listen to it just before the 7 o'clock news on Saturday mornings on RNZ National.